Everyone's talking about privacy coins, but that's not the game that actually scales in regulated finance. XRPL didn't chase anonymity. It evolved toward privacy for compliance, where you prove what regulators require without exposing what they don't need. Think selective disclosure, not secrecy. Auditability, not opacity. Everything here is for educational and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. If clear, no hype crypto education helps you make sense of all this. Hit like and subscribe. It tells YouTube this series is worth showing to other newcomers, and it helps me keep building it for you. Here's the big idea in one line. XRPL is turning privacy into a verification service instead of a mask. On this ledger, controls like Authorized Trust Lines and Clawback already exist for regulated issuers, and multi-purpose tokens modernize how compliant assets behave. Now layer in credentials and zero-knowledge proofs so participants can prove eligibility without handing over their personal data every time. Let's ground this in reality before we go deeper. XRPL has spent more than a decade earning a reputation for reliability, fast finality, predictable fees, and a culture of shipping features banks can actually use. That's why privacy for compliance lands here differently. It plugs into a ledger that institutions already trust. First, what does privacy for compliance really mean? Instead of broadcasting identity information on chain, a user presents a proof about a credential. I'm KYC'd, I'm not on a sanctions list, or I'm allowed to hold this asset in this jurisdiction. The verifier checks the math, not the person, and the transaction can move forward without the app holding raw PII. It's like showing a wristband at the door instead of handing over your passport every time you walk in. That's fundamentally different from anonymity. Anonymity is no one sees anything. Privacy for compliance is authorized parties can validate what's necessary, and auditors can reconstruct what's required, but day-to-day flows don't drag private data across every hop. Now the compliance spine that already exists on XRPL. Authorized Trust Lines let issuers approve who may hold their tokens, a powerful gate for regulated assets. Deposit Authorization lets accounts refuse unsolicited deposits, preventing spam or unwanted instruments from landing in a wallet. And Clawback, when opted in at issuance, gives issuers a court-compliant remedy to reverse an asset transfer under defined conditions. Multi-purpose tokens take this further by modernizing how issued assets behave. Think of MPT as a cleaner token object with built-in semantics that make compliance flags and issuer behaviors more explicit. Instead of bolting logic on top, a lot of the structure exists with the token itself, improving how institutions represent things like stablecoins, deposits, or permissioned instruments. Add identity the right way, and it starts to click. Decentralized identifiers, DIDs, and verifiable credentials. Let a bank, an exchange, or a KYC provider issue a signed claim about a user, accredited investor, KYC passed, resides in approved region. Those credentials can later be used to generate zero-knowledge proofs, math that says true or false, without exposing the underlying document. Here's the simple flow. Step 1. A trusted issuer creates a credential off-chain and gives it to a user's wallet. Step 2. When the user wants to receive a regulated token, their wallet constructs a zero-knowledge proof about that credential. For example, KYC is valid, and country equals X. Step 3. The asset issuer verifies the proof and opens an authorized trust line or enables receive rights on the MPT. Step 4. Mint or transfer happens on XRPL. Fast, deterministic, and logged. While PII remains with the credential issuer and the user. Why this matters for developers is subtle but huge. If the compliance check becomes a proof rather than a PDF, apps don't have to warehouse identity documents, and breach surface area shrinks dramatically. Instead of custom code for every corner case, you get deterministic controls. May receive, may not receive, may be clawed back if court-ordered, enforced by the ledger's rules. And here's where observability supports trust. XRPL's node and API stack separates high-throughput reads from consensus, allowing dashboards and compliance analytics to pull reliable signals without hammering the core. Institutions need boring reliability, consistent data, predictable endpoints, and tight uptime, because audit logs and monitoring are part of how they prove they're doing the right thing. Let's address a natural objection. Does privacy break transparency? The ledger stays transparent. Transactions are still there. But identity is asserted via cryptographic claims instead of plain text documents. Auditors and courts can still get what they need through proper channels, while day-to-day participants minimize what they reveal. Another objection. Isn't this just centralized whitelisting? The difference is that who can hold a specific regulated instrument is determined by its legal design, and the proof of eligibility is portable across venues. You can imagine multiple issuers, multiple verifiers, and multiple marketplaces using the same proof standards, rather than each building a walled garden. Here's the quiet punchline. Most blockchains are trying to retrofit compliance after the fact. XRPL was built with it baked in from day one. The ledger's controls, trust line logic, and deterministic design make this evolution feel native, not patched. Let's paint two quick stories to make it real. Story 1. A dollar-denominated token intended only for KYC'd accounts in approved regions. The issuer configures the token to require authorization, wallets present ZK eligibility proofs, and transfers execute on XRPL's rails, with the clawback switch available for court-ordered remediation. Compliance flows live with the asset. PII stays out of the hot path. Story 2. A permissioned marketplace lists a tokenized security as an MPT pool. Wallets attach eligibility proofs to join or trade requests. The venue verifies the proof, not the person, and admits the account. Orders and settlement remain on ledger for price discovery and audit, but identity is handled as a cryptographic claim that can be revoked or updated by the credential issuer. Revocation matters more than people think. Credentials expire, jurisdictions change, risk scores update, and the system must respond without rewriting history. With verifiable credentials, a revoked or updated status changes future eligibility while the ledger's past remains intact for audit, which is exactly how regulated systems want it. Zooming out, privacy for compliance is a continuum, not a toggle. Some assets need strict controls plus clawback. Others only need region checks. Others are open but still benefit from proof-based spam resistance. XRPL's model lets issuers choose at mint time, then rely on consistent ledger behavior instead of custom contracts. Where do zero-knowledge proofs fit today? The math is proven and widely used across the industry. On XRPL, the role is focused on verifying compliance properties without exposing the underlying documents. Treat it as the missing privacy layer that complements the live controls we've already covered. What about batching and workflow hygiene? Complex institutional flows often combine approvals, mints, and transfers in a sequence, and bundling related steps is valuable for operational consistency. As more advanced transaction grouping features roll out, you'll see credential checks and issuance feel even more atomic and auditable from a back-office perspective. Interoperability deserves one careful mention because it's the bridge to parts 2 and 3. XRPL's ecosystem includes an EVM-compatible environment and bridging frameworks, so assets and proofs can reach other venues when policy allows. That means the same prove eligibility without exposing identity pattern can travel with assets, rather than resetting compliance every time you cross a boundary. For developers, here's the bottom line. Build around proofs, not paperwork. Keep PII out of your app if you don't absolutely need it. Lean on authorized trust lines for eligibility. Encode issuer recourse only where the instrument's policy demands it, and let the ledger's primitives carry the heavy compliance load. For compliance teams, the trade-offs are finally reasonable. You retain the ability to constrain distribution, enforce eligibility, and execute legal remedies, while reducing data exposure across day-to-day operations. Privacy is not the opposite of regulation. On XRPL, it becomes the safest way to honor it. So what's the payoff? XRPL didn't try to be a black box. It chose to be a selective glass box, Regulators can see what they need to see, issuers can prove what they need to prove, and users don't have to spray their identity across every transaction just to get basic utility. And here's the teaser for part 2. If the ledger can gate access, encode issuer controls, and verify eligibility with privacy, what happens when an institutional stack, prime brokerage, custody, treasury, and a regulated dollar token runs directly on top of that? We've seen the architecture. Next, we'll see the machinery it powers. In part 2, we'll connect the plumbing to the business engine, how settlement, collateral, and liquidity actually move when the stack and the ledger speak the same compliance language. This channel is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. Always do your own research and keep the discussion respectful. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing it with a friend.